Welcome to Rev Up Your Leadership with Hilda Gann, the podcast for forward thinking, proactive leaders who believe in a people centric approach to business. Whether you're an executive, a seasoned manager, business owner, or a novice manager, this show is for those who know that putting people first drives real, lasting success. Each episode, I sit down with passionate guests, leaders who share real-world experiences, proven frameworks, and insights from their industries. Together, we explore what it takes to lead with impact, stay ahead of the curve, and build thriving, future-ready organizations. If you're ready to lead with purpose, inspire your team, and think strategically, it's time to rev up your leadership and rev up your success. Welcome to another episode of Rev Up Your Leadership. Today we're going to talk about the power paradox, how leaders lose self-awareness and how to rebuild it. We're going to talk about why power distorts perspective and how leaders can stay self-aware, grounded, empathetic, and effective. So let me tell you a little about my guest today. Ivan is coming back for his second time. He's a master at culture. Ivan Palomino is an expert in behavioral science applied to cultural change and learning. He is a founder of PeopleKult, a tech company specializing in work culture transformation. With 25 years of experience in global leadership roles, Ivan has worked with over 100 corporations to build high-performing, human-centric cultures. He is host of the Growth Hacking Culture podcast and a 2-time author. His latest book, Step Zero Before the Hustle, explores the inner game of entrepreneurship, helping founders build the critical mindset and self-awareness for success.
Thank you, Hilda, for this welcoming announcement. And it's so good to see you again.
I know that when we first met several years ago, we just really hit it off. We were able to, we believe in people and creating healthy work cultures. And you and I just talked for I think a good hour and said, yeah, let's do podcasts, let's exchange podcasts. And I thought it's time to bring you back on, Ivan. Just wonderful.
And it's a good timing, even I believe it's a good timing about the topic that we're going to touch. This problem with power and self-awareness, let's just be a little bit outside the box. Let's not talk yet about the workplace, but in the world today, we're seeing a lot of people, a lot of power, and they are going nuts. And I think that this is a good topic for today, right?
When I invited you to share things, you said the power paradox. And I thought, wow, this is very, timely. And I think what I love about you is you have that out of the box mentality. And I think as we progress, and coming back from, COVID, that we need to think about how do we connect with people. And that's the important part of what you and I do. And so I want to share with people that you and I met, but you are from Switzerland. And I know you went to Dubai for a little while and you're back in Switzerland. So I love talking to my colleagues across the continent to another continent. The title of today is The Power Paradox and how leaders lose self-awareness and how to rebuild it. So let's start with the power paradox. What does that mean?
This is something that is quite it's really touching me because I went through this power paradox. That means that the same thing that make you progress and get the titles, these promotions inside of the workplace, is not the same thing that makes you stay in power. Let me explain you. So I was super well known because I was connecting with people when I was growing in the corporation. I was connecting easily with people, and I was really mindful about what they needed in order to be happy with all my peers. And when I was progressing, I noticed that little by little, my priorities were changing without me noticing the fact that my priorities became a little bit more about results, more about the strategy, and less about the connection with my peers. So it's almost like it's a paradox, because what made you go into that position of power is not what will make you stay, because what is expected from you from corporation is that you focus on these big things, strategic things that they want you to. They want you to push people to do to provide a maximum of productivity. It's almost like being in a factory without wasting time in these connections. Can you believe that?
You know, as you're saying it, I go back to my early days. You brought me back to, I wanted to become a manager. I wanted to connect with people. And as a manager, I knew all 60 of my staff. I made sure they had their evaluations. There was that human touch then. And then I become a director, and I've got 600 people underneath me, because each of my 6 managers has 100 people. And now I don't know those other 100 people. I'm more connected to the managers and helping them. And how do I get that back? Well, it's hard to get back for 600, but you try. So yes, as you keep growing higher and higher, your sphere of influence is larger, but not in a more meaningful, connective way. So there is that paradox, especially for people who are people-centric and pride themselves on that connectivity with people.
And I guess it goes beyond just the spread of numbers, but more about the quality of this connection, because we can still be connected with these 6 people who are reporting to us.
Yes.
But in fact, most often, as human beings, we forget, we put it aside. We are just pushing these 6 people to produce more instead of caring a little bit more about what are the challenges that they are going through. It's almost like power is like a drug. Suddenly, you have power and people are listening to you and they're saying to you yes to every single thing that you say, because with power, there is a little bit of fear. So you get a bunch of people around you that are going to say yes to everything you say. And that becomes a little bit like a drug. You like it, you enjoy it, and you expect more of that. So what are you going to do without noticing is that you are going to ditch a little bit the people who are a little bit more difficult. The people who say no, who in the past they used to be very good people to provide you good ideas that are going to be good for the company. You are going to teach them because it's so painful to listen to them, and you want to be surrounded by the people who are pushing your dopamine, your sense of worth, and that is not good. It's almost like our brain is not wired really good for power, because we notice that in politicians, we notice that in people in senior management teams, in a lot of corporations.
But do you think that happens to everybody, though? Some people don't. Some people thrive on that elixir, and then other people get a little bit fearful of it. What is your thoughts on that?
What I have observed is that the ratio of people who are mindful of what is going on with themselves, this change, they don't want really to lose this edge that they had with connecting with people, it is unfortunately a minority. So we are talking about 10 to 20% of the people who really do something about it, because you have to do something about it. Otherwise, you go into the flow of work and you don't notice that what you are doing. You are being praised for results, but you're not being praised for connecting with people, and that's what happens very often in our organizations. Now, as everything in life, that needs to be trained. But we are not talking about a regular training. We are talking about creating inside of your brain like certain ongoing sequences of that you do, everyday habits that you build in order to keep yourself grounded and more connected with people, doing some certain habit formation exercises that are going to help you realize if you are losing your edge or not.
So what are some of those exercises that you would recommend? And what is losing your edge? First of all, what does losing your edge mean? Like, because you talked about people being power, and almost that elixir makes you want more power and more power. But there's that paradox. If you liked the people connection, and there's this power, there's almost this like, how can you have both, or can you have both?
I guess that you can, but then you have to work on these moments of self-awareness. Like, let me start by the end. So what can you do in order to come back about what are you losing?
Okay.
For instance, as I was mentioning, self-awareness is something isn't something that you have or don't have. It's a skill that requires active and daily practice, because you need to create in your brain these neural pathways that are automatic in order to make you realize. It's a little bit like being emotional. To control it, to tame your emotions, you need to be aware of that it is happening before it's too late, that when the emotion is already gone and you have anger or you have sadness. So some of the practical habits that I have seen working in leaders, and including in myself, because remember, Hilda, I'm a Latino. Emotions is what defines a Latino, right? So one of the habits that I would recommend is a 5 seconds pause. So it's about when you feel a strong negative emotion like anger, defensiveness, frustration, pause for 5 seconds before you speak or type. In that pause, mentally label that emotions. I'm feeling defensive. And this labeling thing, it makes that part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, is going to wake up, and is going to take a little bit the control of your brain and calm down your amygdala, the crazy emotional brain. Then we need to start reframing the situation. Instead of saying they are attacking my idea, try to say they are passionate about this project. This tiny gap is where self-awareness is built. When you are noticing what is going to be your choice of emotions that you're going to portray outside. So it's about training your brain with these 5 seconds pause. There is other habits like how might I be wrong habit. End a key meeting by asking a different question. So don't say any question, which invites usually silence. When you have power, people don't dare. So ask, what's the one thing I might be missing? What is the biggest risk you see in this plan? So that gives an explicit permission to people for actively break this echo, this silence in the chamber, when you are opening the door for critiques instead of saying what is expected. Then there is another one where we try to reverse the lens to change perspective. So before we send a critical email or making a decision that might affect others, spend 30 seconds reading it from their perspective. Ask yourself, how will my junior employee feel reading this at 6 p.m.? Or what context does the finance team have that I don't have in terms of information? There is a microdose of empathy, manually re-engage with these mirror neurons, because this is what makes them survive.
When I coach leaders, and I talk about, okay, yes, I do a tool called Fascinate Advantage, and they speak different. Each one of us has what I'll call our superpowers, and some people, their superpower is power. They are very decisive, and they can make decisions very quickly and live by those decisions. And other people are more detailed oriented, the alert languages. So what I teach the power people is that you have the power. Whatever you say can go. But why don't you use your power to help other people learn how to make decisions? So it's a matter of taking whatever super language you have and improving your communications. And so 2 things you said is that when you speak, whatever language you speak, when you speak as a leader, think about empathy. How would that person feel? What would they want to hear? How can I uplift and motivate them? And then the other one is curiosity, which you also said, is that when I say something, I shut the door sometimes. oh, well, I don't like that idea, or we're going to go this way. So opening the question to say, I'm thinking this way, but there must be other ideas. What are you guys thinking? That question is open-ended. It invites me to say something, right? And so I challenge leaders to say, are you the one that thinks you have all the answers and you're telling everybody what to do? Or are you the leader that's going to open the doors and help them learn to be thinkers and doers? And so curiosity and empathy. And I know we talked about that in your title. We said it's going to be, how do you be self-aware, grounded, empathic, and effective. So yeah, I love those.
You are totally right, Hilda. But that everybody needs to understand that it is not about having a lesson to remember this. If you don't practice, you cannot control it, because we are talking about microseconds between reactions, the lack of empathy or lack of knowledge about ourselves, and what we are going to express. So if you don't practice, you are not going to feel it. Yeah, not so long time ago, I read I don't know if it was a research or an article, I don't remember exactly, but the sad thing about the corporate world is that the penetration, the share of people with sociopathy, so that shows lack of empathy, is higher in the corporate world than in the normal world, like in the street or like in my village of 500 people. We are talking about 2 to 3 times more. If the average in the world of sociopath is around 8%, so you should expect in the corporate world 3 times more. So we are talking about 24%. And the more you climb the ladder, the more this percentage are going to be higher. That means that these are, in a lot of corporations, the rewarded behaviors. And this is wrong, right? We are creating an organization that is purely managed by fear, is by power equal fear in this case, instead of being something where there is a collaborative environment where everybody feels respected. And that's what causes the chaos inside of cultures, because these are the people that we mime behaviors in order to survive. So I'm going to be learning from my boss how to behave, and if it is about fear that he took him there, I'm going to mime that behavior in order to get to that position.
Right. I mean, people become what they see as role models, and oftentimes when I'm doing my sessions on people-centric work cultures, they think that like a manager is somebody who supervises, who yells at you, and who makes you feel uncomfortable. But it doesn't have to be that way. And so what do you like? It doesn't have to be that way, but it is that way. So you're such an out-of-the-box thinker. What kind of solution do you have to help us break that cycle, or to foster leaders who are more empathic, more effective, because they have that more people-centric perspective?
The conversation is going to be a little bit sad and a little bit like tough, because I'm going to compare ourselves as humans like animals. So we need somehow certain number of not rules or things that are not acceptable to belong to the tribe, to the group called the corporation XYZ. So if these behaviors are not respected, no matter how good you are in terms of proficiency to deliver results or to push people to death so that they deliver excellent results and they become broken, you shouldn't be there. So it's up to the CEO, the highest ranked person, to say these behaviors are out, no matter how much money you make for the company. It cannot be otherwise. It's like training a dog. Yes, it has to be, things that are good needs to be rewarded. And that's something that companies forget. They reward results, but they don't reward enough behaviors.
Right.
Good behaviors like empathy should be rewarded.
And yet when you read studies, they say that those companies who focus just on the bottom line profit, they actually earn less than those companies that focus on people and profit. That's the win-win combination. And, Fortune and Harvard Review state things like 2 to 3 times more profit, 2 to 3 times more sales. I don't know the exact numbers, but when you have a people-centric work culture and profit mindset, you are actually more successful. So, I think those listening really need to think about that. Just being a profit-focused company isn't going to get you to the top. You need CEOs, you need senior people who think that people and profit make more business sense.
You made me think about a conversation that I had. That I have a friend who had a very high position in the oil and gas industry, a French guy. And we weren't discussing business. We were discussing like friends having a good bottle of wine and just chit-chatting. And what was amazing that despite the fact that he had a very good education, he had a very high position in that company, is that he wouldn't be able to accept, because he has been programmed in a certain way that people have to be managed. You cannot let them be alone, because otherwise everything is going to chaos. So when I was describing or discussing these type of statistics, it was almost like he couldn't believe it. It's like you need to deprogram your brain, because what he has seen for maybe 25 years of climbing the ladder is that you need to be whipped to go faster. And it is very difficult for him to understand this, that there are numbers that say that. So it's almost like deprogramming of a brain that
like it's a shock to them. They cannot believe it. And my messaging is, if you like that kind of environment, fine, work there. But if you want an environment that balances people and profit, then help build it, or leave this and go somewhere where it provides this for you, because life is too short. You need to love what you do, and you love what we work. And when my husband and I had our own engineering company, we said, we want to create a place where people love what they do and love where they work. And we did that. And most of the people who listen to my show, and you've heard it, we created a best workplaces in Canada top 10 twice, because we wanted to create a place where people love what they do, love where they work. And we would look at the best workplaces in Canada and say, so how do they do that? We have 3 weeks vacation. They have 3 weeks vacation. It's not about the perks. It's about the mental mindset. And when we try to analyze, how did those people get to the top 10 of the 50? And when we got our report, we realized it's the gap between what the managers think they're doing and what the employees feel they're doing. So the bigger the gap, the lower down you are, or not even welcomed on the list. And the tighter the gap, the tighter the group is between us and them. They were the top 5, the top 10 best workplaces in Canada. And then I said, wow, it's creating a we culture. And too often it's an us versus them culture.
Exactly. And one of the big consequences of lack of self-awareness, this big gap, because the more these people are climbing, the less they are aware about what is going on. We saw a lot of toxic culture reports during the COVID times, and every time that the managers were asked about how are they doing, the guys down there, they always believed that they were much more better, the guys down there, than the reality. A huge gap. We are not talking about a 5 points gap. We were talking about 25, 30 points gap in knowledge. Lack of self-awareness is something that is destroying culture.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Rev Up Your Leadership with Hilda Gann. Are you looking to build stronger teams, enhance communication, or lead with a people-first approach? I'd love to invite you to a free 30-minute discovery call to explore how we can help you with strategic HR consulting, leadership training, and team and communication effectiveness training. Visit peoplebrightconsulting.com to book your call. Now let's get back to the episode. when we were preparing for the conversation, you talked about the high cost of blind spots. So what, like, we're kind of talking, this is a blind spot, right? You as the, the executive and senior think the staff are really, the culture is really good here and our staff love it here. And they're totally not. So that's a blind spot. So what other blind spots do you feel that executives, leaders might have, and what is the cost to the organization of that?
So let me just mention just top of the mind. So we all know about the cost of turnover in disengagement. It's a big one. People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. A non-self-aware boss is exhausting to work for. You must your most talented and most self-aware employees will be the first who are going to leave. Then the cost number two, bad strategic decisions. The leader who falsely believes that they are the smartest person in the room due to a self-assessment gap will ignore warnings from experts on their own team. This is how obvious product failures or PR disasters are happening also, these bad strategic decisions. Then there is the accidental toxic culture. Let leaders' blind spot become the company culture. Example, micromanagement. A leader that is anxious about details. They think that they're being diligent. The team experiences this micromanagement as a lack of trust. So they quit.
Yeah.
Burnout. A leader who is always online and thinks that I'm just being diligent creates a culture of burnout. Even if they say we value work-life balance, which we hear from everybody, their actions are louder than their words, and they are not self-aware enough to see it. That's sad.
Yeah. We talk about self-awareness as it's so important, and we talk about leaders should have mentors and have coaches. And I think that in years way past, I thought, why do we need that? If we're already self-aware. But self-awareness sometimes needs somebody to reflect upon. You share, this, and something they say as a third-party observer helps you become more self-aware. My best coaches are the ones where I say, okay, I'm thinking this, and this. Tell me what you hear. Because I need it reflected back on me. It's so close to you. You don't really become too self-aware unless you hear it back in a different way. You're laughed at that. It makes sense, right? I don't know.
It makes sense, but I want to add something. So if you take a mentor, it needs to be someone who's going to tell you really the truth, the naked truth, even the things that you don't like. Wife, like my wife, who will slap me in the face and will put the truth in front of me when I'm doing something stupid.
And you love her for it, right?
Not always.
Okay.
Coaches. Yes, coaches are a wonderful tool in order to, because we, by ourselves, we don't realize so many things. Coaches, if they can guide us, it is super good. But it's not enough. A good coach should have mental models to make us practice these actions that we need to create regularly so that the meta skills are activated, so that we are aware when the coach is not there to say, oops, here I'm doing something stupid and I have to stop. So a coach that has the capacity to help you out to create mental processes, to create triggers that are automatic, micro behaviors that you can correct. This is super good. But a coach who is just going to reflect on
I know navel gazing. So when you said mental models, can you share some examples of what you mean by that, mental models?
Like micro habits that you can practice at any time. So something that takes like 5 seconds. So I was mentioning the fact that sometimes it's just about breathing a little bit in order to activate the prefrontal cortex, who is going to take a little bit more of rational behavior behind these emotions that have been created by the amygdala. So this needs regular practice, because it doesn't come just if I haven't used it for a couple of days, it comes back. So you need to practice every single day this way of pausing for 5 seconds, in regular conversations when you're discussing with your wife, with your daughter, with the people that are working with you, because there is always emotions. And if you're capable of labeling the things without really whipping you because you did a mistake, but more just about being aware about what is going on with you, you are capable of catching with practice before you demonstrate a behavior that you don't want to be. And you have more choices in life if it was your choice to demonstrate an emotion or not.
Yeah, because that 5-second pause combined with learning communication that is either encouraging or neutral. Rather than saying hate, you say, I'm not crazy about that idea, right? Like to soften words so that they become more of inviting conversation rather than shutting down things would really, really be helpful. The name of our podcast is Rev Up Your Leadership. And the Rev Up is also a mental model that people can think about. How do you want to communicate with people? How do you want to treat people? So I will share what that is. Rev Up stands for treat people with respect, look at them as equals, value who they are, make them feel special and important, look at the uniqueness of themselves as individual leaders as well as their team, and then harness that potential. And that mental mindset can make a difference on how you treat others, how you treat yourself. So I'll share my little model there for our people who are interested.
It is a wonderful model. We have discussed that also the last time. So that's why I still remember, Hilda.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other models that you want to help people think about as they're leading? Because we as leaders have that power to make a difference in people's lives. And those people who grew up in a model where I beat you and you'll do better, I micromanage you because they don't trust you, these are not the things that are going to help us move forward as society, as leaders. And now that we work remotely and people know that they have options, they're less scared of working for the same company that they're afraid because you've created a fearful organization. They've got the courage now to leave.
Exactly. You know what I have the feeling is that when we want to grow as a good leader, everybody has good intentions to be a good leader. Even the psychopaths that we were mentioning before, they have intentions. Now, is the incapacity of understanding where they are today that doesn't help them to progress in the good direction. They will progress in the whatever is the direction that they have taken. So for me, in order to be a good leader, everything starts with understanding yourself, your triggers, your values, the person that you want to be, before you start saying, I need to take this course in order to become better at communication. Maybe it's not what you need in order to empathize with people. Maybe it's just that you need to connect with people in order to that so that the words come flow because you are caring, because maybe you are using the right language with your daughter but not with your people, and you're creating a model of the universe that is not the appropriate in order to unleash something that you have already in you. But knowing yourself is the beginning of the journey. I cannot believe that a lot of organizations do not have more discussions about self-awareness in order to create the type of leaders that are going to make people thrive in better cultures.
Well, that's a great comment that you've made. Why do you think that is?
Nobody has taken seriously, and there is a misunderstanding that self-awareness is a little bit about introspection, about what I like and I don't like. It's not. It is about controlling emotions and the mindset that you have, because these emotions provide you a view of the outside that is not the reality. It's about managing the things that your interactions with the outside world. So knowing yourself so that you can have the right view, the right type of glasses to see the world correctly. And that is wonderful. But people do not understand that this is the real meaning. It's not about.
And I think it's because in business we value profit, we value efficiency, effectiveness, and they're not human qualities. They're brain, like their intellectual brain capacity qualities. And so I guess, as teenagers, we were finding ourselves and looking for our identity. And some people thought that was soft. And we use those words. We've got the technical skills, and then we've got the soft skills. And I'm going, they're not soft. Soft sounds a little like, like I call them non-technical skills. And I remember when my husband and I had our company, we provided a robust educational program. So every other week we had a lunch and learn, we'd provide food, and my engineers would be the experts. I say, okay, you talk on transportation engineering this week, you talk on intelligent transportation systems, and you talk on safety. So I had that covered. And then the other opposite week session would be on a non-technical skill. Sometimes it could be just like good nutrition or how to invest for a home, etc. And then there's the networking and communication skills. And so one of my young people said, so Hilda, why do we have these like soft skills? Like, why do we have to have them? I said, hey, it's free lunch. You don't have to come to those. If you don't want to, just go to the technical. Then a year later, he says, Hilda, thank you for introducing these topics. I know now why you did that, so I appreciate you persevering. Because he realized that in order to build himself as an engineer, he needed to connect with people, clients and staff. Today, he started his own company. And he's enjoying it. And when I saw him at a reunion that we had for our company, he said, I just want to thank you and Tyrone so much. And I want to talk to you. Because I started my own company in January. I said, sure, we can do that. So I think we have not emphasized that need. And I think we haven't budgeted for that. People are willing to pay for, if somebody quits and they go to a lawyer, and we'll pay them, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars or more to settle. But will we invest in people to have educational programs, to be a better leader, to have more self-awareness? And that's just not in the budget right now. Do you have a solution for that?
I don't have a solution, but I have a cue of a solution. 1 year ago, I started reading about inner development goals. Inner development goals is what the UN has decided that in order to have impact, if you want to save the planet, save communities, or even take better care of yourself in a sustainable manner, you need to start by knowing yourself. And the first pillar of the inner development goals is self-awareness. So all of the mental models that can work together in order that to have impact and be the person that you decided to be. And I found it wonderful that the UN has done something like that, and I didn't even know 1 year ago.
I started to find that out. So it's called Inner Development Goals, and to look it up under the UN.
Yeah, you just type IDG, and you will find the website of the UN. And what is good is also that they have given it for, even though that there is UN people who have kind of created the model, then it's going like a guerrilla style. There is groups of people who are discussing about how can we teach this. It's a little bit of questioning, self-reflection, actions that you can create in order to get to know yourself better, in order to start putting the trash in the trash bin or recycling things and caring about the world. Start by yourself.
I love this. Thank you. Wow. I want to write it down on a pen, but we're in podcast, so I'll have to replay it later and write it down.
I will send it to you anyways, Hilda. It's a wonderful start in order to be a better leader. Anything that when you want to have something that stays with yourself, because not so long time ago, I was working in a project about sustainability, about helping people to have behaviors for recycling and protecting the planet. And it's just that even people claims that they care, the effort, the transactional effort of losing something, doing something, it was too heavy. So you need to start by understanding yourself if you are capable of doing. And this IDG gave me a little bit of ideas or cues about how to manage so that people who cares starts doing something.
Thank you. We've had a really strong discussion on leadership and taken it in directions where I thought, okay, yes, this is important. People want to be good leaders, but their definitions of leaders are somehow focused not on creating other people to be better, but to manage. And that word manage is like harnessing people. And what you want to do is help them flourish and grow. So I think this has been a really thought-provoking discussion. I think if people want to be better leaders, they need to think about what do they want to be, that inner development goals. Like, what do you want to be? And I think at this point in my career, it's thinking legacy. What have I created? What kind of leader did I want to be when I was 30 or 40 or 50? And we'll stop there. and how has that evolved? And so think about it, whether you're in your 30s and starting out or in your 50s or 60s and you're in a senior role, it's not too late to reflect, what kind of leader am I? What kind of leader do I want to be? And 30 years from now, when you reflect back, what did I do to create people to be better at what they wanted for their career, right?
Exactly. It's a lovely way to understand what we want to be as leader. Thank you, Hilda.
Yes. Ivan, I always appreciate talking to you. I find your thought processes really are deep enough for us to think and not just do the same old. What's happening for you? I know you mentioned a book, and what kind of clients work with you? Because I find you so fascinating that other people may say, hey, I need to know this person better. I need to work with them. So tell me a little bit more about what's going on in life with you.
So most of my working life, let's say a good 60% is still in the area of work culture, where I mentioned to you, I have a little bit of technology that I have been developing with some Polish crazy guys who have developed an AI-based tool to measure culture in life, like a little bit like when you are in the stock exchange, you have numbers about what is going on in the corporation, like sales, but here you have all the dimensions of cultures, what is going on in terms of motivation, in terms of leadership, in a day-to-day basis, because people are feeding the beast at any time. So this is where I spend most of my life. But I wanted to create more impact. So I have been using certain principles of the behavioral science in order to apply them for sustainability projects, helping communities like in Switzerland. And Switzerland is a good place for sustainability because communities like cities, they care about it, but they don't know how to crack it. And certain principles of psychology, the human psychology, are needed, and I have been helping them develop tools that nudge people to have the right behaviors in terms of sustainability here. So, in another good cause that I have been during this last month is about how do we make this guy who is fearful of in his 50 years old in a corporation stops being fearful and start taking the lead on their career? How do we rebrand, rework, and have a little bit more conscious of all the experience that we have when we are 50 and we start just losing this confidence, because a lot of people in the 50s are losing confidence because they're treated badly because they're old. This is
Wow.
the name in Europe, and I've been working with them in order to understand what triggers the remotivation and what triggers this envy of learning new things, like completely AI stuff. I have seen people in the 60s programming, coding on their own with AI today, and that is wonderful. And in fact, they have been the ones who have encouraged me to do the same.
It's so interesting because certain people do have a conservative mindset, and then they're old before they're like 40 kind of thing. And then there are others who are 90 and still agile and wanting to learn. I remember when my husband's grandfather was 72, because it was 1972, and it was the year we were switching from the imperial system in Canada to the metric system. He bought a calculator, and he wanted to know, well, so how much is 1 pound equal to in kilograms, right? And I'm thinking, you're 72, and a lot of people might have said, I'm too old, I'll just keep my old system, and that just, it motivated me to say, when it's your mindset, it's not your age that stopped you from progressing. So everybody should be embracing AI so that they don't fall behind. We're all novices now. You get to be in part of the company of not knowing what you're doing about it now. But if you wait 2 years from now, you definitely will look like you're right out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like sometimes it's your inner mindset that is, it might be the bottleneck, but sometimes we have been formatted at also 50. Inside of a corporation, we feel a little bit shitty that we get the new boss who is younger than us, who is putting us aside. So you get a toll on in terms of the motivation. So you start doing the extra effort to be beautiful.
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you?
Getting hold of me, LinkedIn, Ivan Palomino. Or you just type Ivan Palomino in Google and you will see me appearing, because I, at least my personal website goes first for my name.
Good. Well, it's been such a pleasure having you today. I certainly have come away with a few good ideas myself, like the inner development goals, I think you said, from the United Nations. So I'll be looking that up later today. And always a pleasure to catch up with you. And thank you again for appearing as my guest yet again.
Thank you, Hilda. It was lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you. And to my listeners and viewers, give this a thumbs up. You probably have to listen to it a couple of times to figure out what we've talked about, but we've given you some deep thinking on how you can be more self-aware and think about what kind of leader do you want to be, and then get working towards that goal. So thanks again. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in to Rev Up Your Leadership with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date with our latest episodes. For more leadership and HR tips and strategies, and to learn how you can create a people-centric workplace, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.